Welcome back again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Very occasionally you get, fights which are, they're not even crossroads fights, because a crossroads fight is between, two guys, and, they've maybe had defeats, and they're coming back, and then the winner will move on and the loser will have to probably walk off into the sunset. But occasionally you get fights that are between two guys who are essentially shot to bits. And we're going to get one of those on the undercard of the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte. And who's it between? It's between none other than our old friend DERECK Chisora, who is going to fight GERALD Washington. Okay, so we'll get to Chisora in a minute. I mean, you know Chisora's story, but let's have a look at Washington first of all. Now, GERALD Washington has 20 wins, 13 KOs, 5 defeats, all by KO or stoppage, and 1 draw. And all 5 of his stoppage defeats have come in his last 7 fights, dating back to 2017. So that's 6 years ago. It's actually 6.5 years ago, because it was early on in 2017. But he was last seen being stopped in 8 rounds by Ali Demirezin, I think the guy, Demirezin, Turkish fighter, I believe. He was stopped in 8 rounds in that fight. That was in 2022, so that's last year. You then go back to 2020, and he was stopped in 6 by Charles Martin. In 2019, bizarrely, he had a knockout win over Robert Helenius, of all people, who went on to stop Adam Kownacki twice. And talking of Kownacki, in 2019, GERALD Washington got stopped by him in 2 rounds. So there we have another, he had another win. He's only had 2 wins in his last 7 fights. That was a unanimous decision over John No Fire, who apparently had no fire. It's probably pronounced No Fire or something, I don't really know. And then prior to that, Gerald Miller, well, we know about him, don't we? He retired after eight rounds against Miller. And then prior to that, Deontay Wilder took his unbeaten record on a 5th round TKO. So that is GERALD Washington. Only 2 wins in 6.5 years and 5 stoppage defeats. He's a big lad, 6'6", but it looks to me like, because I've always thought this about Washington, he's a big fella, and they thought he can make a few dollars as a heavyweight, so we'll give him the basic skills. But he never struck me as a type of person who really wanted to be a boxer or had any sort of natural inclination. It was almost like he smacks of being a manufactured boxer. I won't say he's got no heart, because that's a bit unkind. That's probably not true. I mean, he keeps taking these beatings, so he must have some sort of guts. But they've obviously dangled a paycheck in front of his nose, or Eddie Hearn has, and said, come over here and fight DERECK Chisora in Greenwich. And he's like, yeah, whatever, another knockout defeat. So what's the worst that can happen? It's only that. And of course, DERECK, we know, 33 wins with 23 KOs, 13 defeats now, 4 by stoppage, no draws. Last seen getting the living crap beaten out of him by Tyson Fury last year, December 2022. Prior to that, he eked out a split decision win. That was also in 2022 against Kubrat Pulev. I thought Pulev won that fight. DERECK was competitive, but he got a split decision, and he's had a few fights where, perhaps he hasn't had the rub of the green, but he got it this time. Prior to that, he had 2 fights with Joseph Parker in 2021, lost both of them. One of them was a split decision, one of them was very close, and you could argue DERECK won it. Prior to that, it was Alexander Usyk, lost a unanimous decision. So DERECK's got, 1 win in 5 fights, and is coming off the back of a horrendous beating from Tyson Fury, which was completely predictable. Now, what's the point of this fight? I mean, is it a case of the winner will move on? Well, DERECK's 39. I'm not sure how old Washington is. Mid-30s, 35, 34, 35 maybe. He might even be a bit younger, I don't know. But in terms of, miles on the clock, both these guys are, the punishment that they've both taken in different ways, because DERECK normally goes a distance, Washington gets stopped. But they've both taken, awful amounts of punishment. So we know DERECK loves to fight, and he's probably going to fight until he's completely punch drunk. But, he's a warrior. No doubt. And I kind of stopped short of saying that people should retire, because it's not really my place to do so. But you've got to worry about guys like this. Having said that, you never know. It might be a good fight. It might be a good fight. You just never know. But the question is, does the fact that let's say it is a really great fight. I don't think it will be. But let's say it is, and there's a few knockdowns and people are cheering, and it's one stops the other in a real entertaining bout. Does that sort of counterbalance the fact that both these guys probably shouldn't be in the ring? Does it counterbalance the fact that they're killing each other's brain cells, and they're brain cells that they really need right now, because brain cells, the brain doesn't regenerate cells, unlike the rest of the body. So you lose them for good. I don't know. I just and anyway, what's the winner going to do? Is Derek at 39 going to move on to work his way to another world title fight? He might get another paycheck, but then if he loses, he might get another paycheck. I don't know whether it'll be with Eddie Hearn, but you just don't know. But he's a name. And Washington, let's say Washington pulls off an upset. That will be his third victory in 6.5 years in 8 fights. And the five that he's lost were by KO. Is he going to suddenly get a world title shot? He might against Tyson Fury, you know what I mean? Enough said. But no, I find this, it's just padding for the main event. You get two big guys who are going to knock lumps out of each other. I just find it a bit crass, a bit distasteful, to be honest with you. But maybe you disagree. If you do disagree, leave your comments below. What do you think of this fight? Who do you think will win? What do you think? Where do you think the winner goes? Where do you think the loser goes? Where do you think everyone goes? Just leave your comments below. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button if you don't mind. That would be a big help for us. It always is. Spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. And yeah, as always, thanks for your time, and bye for now.